Okay. Good evening, everyone. I hope you guys are really good. Had a busy week. Things are going really well for you. The sun seems to be shining, certainly where we are, and it certainly makes a lot of difference to people. Getting out and about and doing things makes people happier. So I hope you're having a really good week. So today, I don't know if anybody's got any questions. If you have, just drop them in the chat, and we could look at those. But yeah, the sessions that we try and do on a monthly basis, either in Zoom or in person, are meant to be interactive. So it's not a training as per se that I speak all evening, and then it's always done to try and get involvement, try and get people's ideas, try and get people's experiences. So regardless of where you're on your property journey, please feel free to ask questions or throughout the presentation, or contribute wherever you feel necessary. Just unmute, and then you can just come in, so that it makes it more of an interactive evening. So social media, if you want to take photos of anything of the screens, then please feel free to do so and share those things. I often go through this slide because it's the start of my property journey, and I'm very clear of what I do and what I am trying to do. So I'm a buy and hold investor, and so I buy properties and I hold them for a very long term. So it's not just long term in my lifetime, but I'm looking for generational wealth. And you'll see during this evening that this is nothing fancy in terms of big strategies or anything like that. Simple buy-to-lets, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms, 1 bedrooms, and I have a portfolio in Kent where I'm based. And the picture that you see, not the picture, but the office behind me is where I'm based in Sittingbourne. And the office goes, so we serve from this office. We can have properties throughout Kent, London, Reading, and Stoke-on-Trent. So we've got 2 main areas, which is Kent and Stoke-on-Trent. There is a reason for those things as well. We get good capital growth in Kent, and we get good rental income in Stoke. And again, splitting areas, it's great, because if one area is affected by something, then the other area is still very, very positive. So look, if you're investing, just looking at those things is going to be good. I've gone into commercial conversions, new builds. This was a project that we did a couple of years ago, which is the Corals, and then we converted 4 flats above the Corals, and we built 3 at the back. There was a 4th one that was, or the 8th one that was planned, but we just sold that project off because it was costly. We also have land. This was a land option, so we had an option on the bungalow here plus the land. It was an orchard, and from there we've got the planning, and the whole site is now being sold. So this is, I'm in a partnership with a gentleman. So on my own portfolio, the buy-to-let portfolio that I showed you at the beginning, that is always a buy and hold portfolio. And I'm so blessed that it served me for so many years because of the rental income, the capital growth, which I've been able to leverage again and again and reinvest into projects such as these. But that security of having those buy-to-let properties has enabled me to then go into, as I say, other areas and diversify. Where I'm in a partnership, my strategy is not to hold long term with that person, but to start a project, gain value, and then exit. So that, and then if we want to carry on again as a longer partnership, we can do, but each project is exited. And there's lots of reasons for that. It's to create capital, large sums of capital in a project like this. Things could happen, and I don't want to leave somebody else the headache of also being in a partnership, let alone the properties that we have in our own name. When it comes to a partnership, it's more complicated, of course, and I know the ins and outs because I'm here every day. My wife Gita knows about these things, but not to the same extent, of course, so she had to deal with it. It'd be more difficult, and I'm sure you could appreciate that. We also have another branch of our company, which we have an estate agent. So this is the other side. So my office is here. There's a part at the front, and then what you see in the pictures is around the side, and we have a team of 10 people serving landlords, property investors, and looking after our own portfolio. And again, this evening I'll show you, one of the reasons for doing this is that I'm based in a local area, and I've been investing in this area for over 30 years in Kent, in Sittingbourne. And the whole idea is to create it wasn't to create a brand to start with, but it is now, is to create a brand, something that's very simple to service. So a lot of our properties in this particular area in a 2-mile radius, so that we can set maintenance, we can pop out, we can do inspections, we can do viewings, and it's very, very cost effective. But with the internet, we're able to manage our Stoke properties, which is 3.5, 4 hours away, where we get a local agent to do viewings for us, set a tenancy up, and then the management comes back to here. So the tenant picks up the phone, or we have a system called fixed flow for maintenance. They complete that, it comes to us, and regardless of where we are going to appoint a contractor. So the contractor's in Stoke-on-Trent and we're calling from here. It makes no difference if we're 5 minutes away from them. So what I thought we'd do this evening, and as I said, that's just the introduction. We'd look at some golden rules and tips for property investing. Now, each person may think about this and think, well, do I have my own sort of rules about investing, subconsciously or consciously? These are some of the things that I've looked at recently and thought, well, what are my rules for investing? Some of them you'll recognize as we go through, because you've probably heard them somewhere else, or you may think, well, that makes sense because, of course, you would do that. Others you may think, I don't agree with that, and that's okay as well. The idea is, after this evening, is to think about what your own rules are for investing, and they don't have to be the same as mine. But if you have a certain set of rules, then that may help you to identify properties quicker. It may help you to make sure that the properties that you have are good and everything else. So I've got 21 tips. As I said right at the beginning, it is interactive. So if I come up with a tip and you have an opinion or you want to share something, please feel free to unmute and contribute. Is that okay? By a show of hands? Yeah, thank you. So tip number 1, I put on there, know your why and have clear goals and have a plan to achieve your dreams. This is, let me ask you the question. Why do you think this is important? You can unmute, contribute, or shout out, it's okay. So the reason why I think it's important is because property, would you agree by a show of hands that it can be up and down? Things can happen, there are challenges. So knowing your why is going to be so important, because that is going to be saying, why am I here? What is going, if there's bad days, good days, whatever, you need to know why you're doing certain things. My why in the beginning was I was working for an employer on a motorway services as a manager. I went through a management training program, and then I had a job with them, a career, and I've been with them for 10 years. And in my first, as a management trainee, I was earning 30 years ago £1,000 a month net, and my objective was to get 10 houses with £100 net income on each, so that meant that I could have the same income as I did from working for somebody else. And when the two were in line with each other, I was earning £1,000 from property and I was earning £1,000 from working full time, then I could make a decision if I continued working for an employer or I went full time. When I got to 10 properties, basically the requirement for having a full-time job then was really a requirement from a mortgage lender to say, yeah, you have to have a career or a job for us to give you a mortgage. So I continued that, but by this stage I'd got £1,000 coming in from an employment situation and £1,000 coming in from rental income. Now in those days, and I'll go back up a bit, there was no education in terms of having multiple streams of income. So I was doing that and I didn't even realise it. So getting £2,000 a month meant that I could expand quicker. So knowing your why in terms of getting to where you need to get to is really important. And my why was to not work for an employer, but to work for myself as soon as possible. But the mistake I made, I set a goal for 10 years, and it was actually 9.5 years when I left, and I wish I'd set the goal at 5 years. So if you're setting a goal, maybe set it a little bit shorter so that you will achieve it quicker, because your subconscious mind will look at that. So within that statement, I've said I had a plan. I wanted 10 properties with £100 income on each. That allowed me to achieve my dream of working for myself full time. So I'm sure you've been through those, but as I said, if you want to contribute at any stage, then please feel free to do so or ask questions. Tip number 2 is research the market and know which client group you intend to serve. This is so important because unless you know which is your current market, how are you going to find the right property? How are you going to do this? So it always starts with, who am I looking to serve? Why am I looking to serve them? I don't think it's about starting with the money first. It's about service. And when you give that value, of course, the money will follow through. We often hear this term, location, location. It goes a bit deeper than that. Know your investment area. As Aaron Curry says, he's a great trainer. And he says, always know your investment area. But it goes further. Know your streets. So would you invest in a certain street? Would you invest in a certain area, but then in a certain street? And do you know the houses on that street? So you could have a street with one end could be valued more and the other end could be totally different because you've got reputational where those properties have had drug dealings or something else. So knowing your area is critical. And once you know that area, it's sticking to it. So again, as part of our business as an estate agent, if you called up and said, for example, William Street, I've got this property, 3-bedroom property. It's a terraced house. Can you give me a valuation? We would know quite quickly what the valuation is. Yeah, without having to go to the property. And there's loads of tools online now which you can get online valuations very quickly as well. So there's a lot more tools, but knowing your area street is important. And select an investment area. And this goes back to the point number 3. Build your knowledge of the area and build your brand within the area. So here we've been investing, as I say, in the same town for 30 years. So we know the streets, we know the areas, we know which is the bad bits, we know which is the good bits. It's okay me knowing, but what I'm then trying to do is, how many of you have heard the saying by a show of hands, it's not what you know, it's who you know? Yes? It goes further than that. It's not who you know, it's not what you know, it's not who you know, but who knows you. So when people get to know who you are and they have a property problem, if you're the property expert in your town, then they're going to call you as the property expert, because they're going to say, I have this problem and I know you buy properties and I need your help. And when you actually get to that stage, it's absolutely fantastic. And I've had people walk in, not through because it's an estate agency. They come into our office looking for me saying, I know you buy properties and can you help me? Because my mother's in a care home and I have now run out of my savings. She's run out of her savings, but I need to pay for her care. She has the house and we need to pay for the care. What can you do? And in those situations, we've actually said, okay, have you got the bill for the care? And instantly, within a very short amount of time, we've spoken to the care. We've actually paid the care bill, having negotiated the purchase of the property. But whilst the property is going through, we've actually paid for the care fees. The whole point of doing that, yes, we're going to get a great deal on the property, but for them, the property is not important because it's their peace of mind for their mum to be able to be cared for. And that's it. Those situations only occur when you know a local area, you invest in a local area, and you build your local brand in your local area. Does that make sense? Yeah. if anybody wants to come in, as I say, please feel free to do so. If not, I'll continue. We hear often buy below market. Is that correct? Do you hear those things, buy below market? So what does it mean when we say buy below market? The thing is the real value of a property may not be what's being advertised or what's being shown. So you really need to work out what the real value of a property is and then try and buy below that. Now, there may be occasions where that doesn't happen. Have I paid over the asking price? I have, because that suited me, not in the earlier days, but it suited me more during COVID, because the finance was good, and I knew that was going to be a good, because again, it's within walking distance of our office. So operationally, I'm not having to pay for fuel. I'm not having to pay to go and manage that property. It's very, very easy. So I actually paid more money knowing that the demand was there. 6 months after having purchased it, I'd had offers above what I'd paid for it, knowing that the market was there. But buying below market is great, but buying below the real value is better. So you need to know what the real value of the property is, and there are tools out there that, of course, so I hope I haven't missed one, but this is number 6. Invest in areas with multiple growth drivers. So there could be public investment. There could be national, international companies like Amazon investing in a certain area. They've been investing in Luton and places like this, employment growth areas, government improvements, etc. So they may be investing in the infrastructure. There's lots of leveling up grants, things like that. So if there's leveling up grants, that area, it's the reason why they're getting the leveling up grant. So that area is going to go up. So that's the time to just buy at that time. So knowing that information is going to be important to you to get you more growth. I mentioned this on one of the others about knowing your tenant profile. Now, our tenant profile, our company name is Family Homes, and I have single buy-to-lets in my portfolio. I have some HMOs, we have some commercial conversions, we have other things, but our core business is single buy-to-lets. So our tenant profile is a family of mum and dad and children. So mum and dad could be 2 people in a relationship. It could be 2 people of the same sex. It could be any of those things, but we're looking for them at the stage they could have children. They could be, like I said, in a mixed relationship, whatever the relationship is, but if there's children there and they're around 10, 11, they're going to stay through school years and they're not going to move. So your void periods go down, they get settled, you build a great relationship with them. And I was at a property yesterday, and I said to the lady, "Oh, how long have you been here?" She said 7 years. And she said, "Yeah, the schools are local." So I said, "Oh, well, how did you come to select this property?" Because I hadn't spoken to her because 7 years ago. But yeah, she's been in there 7 years. So then our target is to have that tenant in the property for 7 to 10 years. It could be longer. We've got properties that have tenants in there 15 years, 16 years, but we find that our average is between 8 and 10 that they will stay in the property. So that's great. But knowing our tenant profile, we are looking for dual income as well where we can. And that dual income may be one person is working and the other one gets benefits. So, but there are 2 incomes. So if I had a choice, I'd go for a dual income rather than somebody earning a larger salary on a single income. This is, again, for me, this is what I do. I invest for the long term. Now, if you're not going to invest for the long term and you're thinking of investing for the short term, still have that mindset of investing for the long term, because at some stage, if you need to sell, then again, that property is going to be valuable, be sellable, and somebody else may be coming in for the long term. So always think long-term investment, that if you had to hold it for 25, 30, 40 years, would you be happy with that property or not? And again, yes, it does boil down to price, but it's just looking at this and balancing out and saying long-term investment is, for me, it's one of my good things. Building relationships with building long-term relationships again with a broker. This is key because we look at properties, we look at the size of bedrooms, we look at all these different things. One of the things is, of course, finance, and getting the finance right is going to be critical. I had a broker from about 2000 to 2008. 2008, due to problems, my broker that I've been working with closely, and he knew all our circumstances and all the situation, all our history, he decided to go and shut his business because it wasn't viable for him. So he closed down. And then I didn't find a broker for about 2-3 years. And I think that cost me a lot of money, because if I'd had a broker, I would have been, not because I'm monitoring the mortgages, that was important, but most of them were on fixed rates at that time, so it was okay. But it would have been the opportunities that I would have found, I would have been able to broker them because I would have had somebody to go to. There were opportunities where I probably missed out and not completed on those properties because I didn't have the finances in place at the right time. Again, does that make sense? Yeah. Any questions up until this stage? Anything that anybody wants to comment on? Okay, get a good mortgage deal. Goes without saying, one of the biggest costs is finance. And again, we're looking at not just the interest rate, the fees, the valuation, the overall cost of borrowing. So it's looking at those and shopping around. So look at where you can get that, because I think a lot of people spend more time on buying a pair of shoes, a pair of trainers, a suit, clothes than they do their mortgage deal, and their mortgage deal is going to be a major contribution to, well, not a major contribution, it's going to be a major cost to their success. And if you get this bit right, you have more money in the bank, which means that you can then grow again. So getting the mortgage deal correct is absolutely vital. And again, some of these, it makes sense, but some of it is that literally common sense that you can't. It's really concentrating on those. And a lot of my time within property over the last 3 decades that I've been doing this has been looking at mortgages. Where can I get the best finance? Where can I get this? And I went to a training one evening in Chatham here, and this gentleman had been in prison for whatever reason. I wasn't there judging him. I was just there to have a listen to his information. I didn't know he'd been in prison, but he stood up and he said, "Look, I've been in prison, and whilst I've been in prison for 5 years, I've been thinking about property and what to do, etc." He had 2 things. He was looking on the one hand for money all the time, and on the other hand, the property. And he talked about how the financing and everything else is so important. And as I said, I wasn't judging him for why he was in. It was getting the lessons that he'd learned from his previous career or previous life. So having a good finance input is critical. For me, I buy core properties that I can sell. I'm not looking to sell, but if I ever needed to, can we liquidate? The valuations are easier. So I have my core property sits in between 2s and 3s, family homes, because that's my market. I have some 1 bedrooms and I have some 4 bedrooms. The 4 bedrooms, I have one in Stone in Stoke-on-Trent, in Stafford near Stoke-on-Trent. That one there is it's been empty for 2 months. It's a lovely property, ensuite, 4 bedrooms, etc., etc. But because it's a 4 bedroom, we're looking for the right person. It's going to take longer to rent than maybe a 2 or 3 bedroom. I can afford to have that empty for a little while because I've got other income from the 2s and 3s. And as I say, I have some 1s. If you have all 1 bedrooms, the law changes, something happens, you're going to be stuck. And diversification in the property type is going to be important as well. So just a consideration of those things. Don't overextend financially. My ambition has got the better of me sometimes. I've never been in financial difficulty, thank God. But there have been times when I've wanting to buy this and I want to buy that and I want to buy that. And I've been to, some network and this person's doing that. And you think, so always look at your own financial circumstances. Don't overextend. Look at cash flow, because cash flow is going to be the key, because with the cash flow, you can pay the monthly mortgage. Capital, yes, is great, but you can't pay your monthly mortgage and you can't pay your costs and everything else. I think Amit put in the chat, I just saw that flash up just a minute ago about developing a power team, solicitors, accountants, brokers, etc., etc. To develop a team of professionals, surveyors, again, is critical, because those are the people that are going to help you. But ultimately, it's your decision what you do. But having those people on tap is going to be really, really important. At the last meeting, at the end of the last meeting, I was just explaining, or the last Zoom, I was just explaining that over time, your power team starts working together. So your accountant and your solicitor are talking to each other. Then you've got your broker talking to them. So it's getting everybody, again, with the technology now, it's very easy to go, like, we've got this problem and this is what we need to do. Tomorrow morning, I've got an appointment at 10 o'clock, and it's to do with a title split. And the architect is coming to site, but my solicitor's in Manchester, so we'll be, of course, FaceTiming her so she can actually see the site and see what's on the paperwork, so that we can then make sure the lines are drawn correctly and it's there. So with the technology, as well as having people that work together, leverage local expertise, building up a relationship with local agents. If you need help, most agents, certainly independents like us, we're an independent, we're more than happy to help. So if you phoned up and said, what's the rental, what's this valuation? And I think being honest with people is the key, in saying, no, I know this property hasn't come through you. I do self-manage, but could you just give me an idea of the rental? Could you, because I know that you operate locally, or that you're a local expert, etc. People will share that information quite openly. So yeah, working with it could be commercial agents, it could be accountants, solicitors, but working with people that know the area is going to be important. This is who normally hears, by show of hands, pay yourself first. Yeah, I'm sure within your property journeys, you've heard people say, pay yourself first. And I totally disagree with that. It's pay everybody else first, and never owe people money. And personally, for me, on a Friday, we make sure that all our contractors are paid. So when we ask for the invoice, and we go, look, and when we set a contractor out, we say, we need your public liability insurance. This is, and our terms are that as long as we get an invoice on by the Thursday of that week, we'll pay you by the Friday. And the key is, a lot of contractors, for example, you have gas engineers, plumbers, electricians, they're working from week to week, and sometimes they're on a 30-day payment. With other companies, they get big contracts where they're on 60 or 90 days. But with us, if they know they're going to get paid on a Friday, they are very happy, and we can pick up the phone and we can say, can you go out to this property? Not a problem, because they know they're going to get paid immediately. Do we have disputes with people? Yeah, we've had a dispute last week. We had a young lad that's been working for us for 18 months as a contractor, and for some reason he had real bad attitude, I tell you, and I just thought, well, this isn't going to work. So we had a conversation and said, look, this isn't going to work for me anymore. But what I'll do is he actually worked 3 days that week, and then I said to him, take the rest of the 2 days off, and I'll also pay you for next week. As a contractor, I don't have to give him a week's wages. I don't have to give him a week's salary, if you like. But it's the right thing to do, because I'm thinking about him and going, well, what are you going to do next week? Regardless of how we got into that situation, I want to leave it on a good note. Sometimes bad contractors has done a poor job, and you try and work it out, but in the end, we pay the money and we go, thank you, and we won't go back to you. So So that's my philosophy on that. The other thing is that some of you may know Fergus Wilson, who is Judith and Fergus Wilson at one time, and they probably still are, were one of the biggest investors in property. They had over 1,000 properties, and they've always been in the news and etc. And they're here in Ashford, which is not too far away. They used to come to the local auction, and I always used to talk to Judith. I always used to try and talk to Fergus and say, look, can I get some tips? Can I get some information? A bit like Daniel trying to soak up all the information. And he actually said to me one day, he said, so now do you realize that everybody eats from the table of the investor before the investor does, right? So your valuation, the valuer eats from that. The solicitors eat from our table. Every single profession, every tradesperson eats from the investor's table before the investor gets paid. So that's again, that way of saying, pay everybody first before yourself. As a show, like in the chat, who agrees with if you put a 1 in the chat, agree that you pay yourself first, and 2 if you pay everybody else first. So you're paying everybody else first and then you pay yourself. Yeah, I think the majority are in agreement that pay everybody else first. So thank you for doing that. I actually got that the wrong way around, but you know what I mean, is that, you know, we all pay, I think we're all in agreement we're going to pay everybody else first, and never owe any money. Never owe any money. We owe millions of pounds to banks, but I never owe any money to a trade person, a solicitor, this person, etc., etc. Imran has put 1 and then 2. If you want to explain that, I'm happy to do that. But are you going to unmute, Imran? Or?
Yeah, sorry, Sunil. Yeah, I mean, I was being a bit facetious there, but at the end of the day, my logic is I run a business. In order for people to get paid, the business needs to get paid too. So while in principle and from an ethical perspective, I completely get the logic behind paying others first. But if you're not feeding your own business, no one gets paid.
Yeah, I think in reinvesting it in the business is good. And I think people go, yeah, well, pay your salary first before you pay the staff salaries or the contractor salaries. But, you know, yeah, we pay everybody else first, and then we see, you know, what's left. And there've been months where, well, not months, but there's, you know, times where there's less money in the business, but I've never gone without, because, yeah, of the investments we've made in the past. But I've probably dwelled on that quite a lot, because I do actually, that is one of my key things. I'm going to pay everybody else first and, you know, see what's left. And yes, but the business has to survive. So that is important.
Sunil, if I may just come back in very, very quickly. The way I would phrase it, for myself at least, that resonates better with me, is I would say make sure we pay people on time. That doesn't necessarily mean that they get paid first, because one can engineer credit terms, payment terms in a way that works for everyone involved. But it's always important, in my opinion, to make sure that people are paid on time.
Yeah, and I think Helen's in agreement with you. I was just reading the chat box. The business, I think it's just flashed off, but so let me just see if I can get it. The business is the customer, the business gets paid too. So yeah, I think you're right, and it's good that you input to say, you know, it's how you phrase it, it's how it works for you, etc., etc. But there's lots of options. But I think owing people money, certainly when you're working in a local market, but it's the ethics of it, I think is important for me. So yeah, and I'm not saying that if you agree payment terms that, or you do this, that you're not ethical. It's however you do it, there's ethics in it. So that's not a problem. It's just, I think, like I said, I spent a lot of time on that one, because we know that served us well by paying everybody and then going, well, okay. So diversification, balancing your portfolio, don't put all your eggs in one basket. I covered this in a little bit by going, you know, our core properties are 2s and 3s. We have some HMOs. We have some commercials, commercial as in commercial, not to resi. We have commercial to resi, but we have commercial to rent as well. So we have rent out little shops, offices, and that's within our portfolio, not for other we also do that for other landlords. It's just a different contract. But again, you will find a landlord that's got some residential properties, and they may have just the one shop, and we'll go, yeah, we can take that on. And people go, but you're called family homes, that's the name of our company, but that doesn't, we understand the commercial contract and how we can put that together and negotiate that. So commercial, having a mix is really important due to political changes, due to governmental changes, due to restrictions, whatever that may be. Just spreading it out. If you're certainly investing for the long term, it's going to be important. Be proactive, flexible, adaptable. This goes on a number of levels, where properties are, what can you use the property for? Can you maximize the asset? Can you maximize the yield? Can you move? Can you do certain things with it? If the law changes, can you do something with the property? But it's that mindset of going, yeah, I'm going to be proactive. How quickly can we let this property? Can we do something that was going to let it quicker? So again, yeah, just being flexible with it. We had a landlord who had a 3-bedroom house that he'd built, and the build was really good. But one of the rooms was below size. So I think he'd applied for a 2-bedroom property and then built 3. So there was some confusion there, but he just came to us as a letting agent. And in order to get the tenant in, the tenant had moved basically that day and then come back and said, I can't fit a bed in there. I can't fit a single bed in there. So we rang the landlord and said, can't fit a bed in there. Well, it's not my problem. And he wasn't interested. So we went and brought a fold-up bed from Argos for their child, and they were happy with it, and they were in there for 5 years. So it's just finding solutions, adapting to it, and being flexible. Inspect thoroughly and negotiate smartly. So inspect the property, make sure you look at the boiler, the electrics, and all these things are on checklists at the moment. And you can go through and you go, yeah, let me look at everything. Let me check the property. Go back for a second viewing if you need to at a different time. If they said, oh, come on a Saturday at 10 o'clock, try and get a viewing another day of the week. Saturday, latest in the day, maybe it's a different area, maybe something's changed, etc., etc. Negotiate smartly. Nobody wants that situation where just before exchange, and we do get it, the smart person goes, I'll tell you what, I'm going to try and get the price down. Yeah, if you're going to negotiate at the beginning and negotiate smartly. So have your information ready, but negotiate at the beginning. Once the deal is done, don't try and then go back, because certainly if it's an agent, they'll remember that situation that, they've had to work hard to keep the deal. The person who's selling, they may have already set their dream, what they're going to do with the money. They've got their expectations. They're going to move on, and doing it at the last minute, again, I don't think it works. So inspect thoroughly, negotiate smartly at the beginning, and you're going to get more chance of getting a better deal at the beginning rather than trying to twist their hand at the end. Sorry, Victoria.
Hi, Sunil. Hi, everyone. Just a quick question. I've been under a circumstance where I have negotiated, everything was happy, everyone was happy, but then come the survey, there was a lot more work hidden than I realized. So I had to go back to the vendor and the agent to say, unfortunately, we need to renegotiate due to the works involved.
So when did you know about the works? When the valuation came in?
Yes.
So I think that's genuine, because you haven't done it the day before exchange.
Oh, no.
So what you've done is said, I'm making an offer, but when you've then got more information from an expert, and you've used that tool to say, look, we need to negotiate here because I didn't know this information. And the agent and the person selling can understand that.
Okay.
It's
Because
where
what, yeah, sorry. What actually happened was then the lender did give me an offer, but then due to the amount of work, the offer was retained.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely genuine. That's great. I just think that when it's near the end and the person knows in their heart or in their mind that what they're going to do is I'm going to make an offer and I'm going to try and knock the price from because they think they can because it's the transaction has moved so far down the road and the other person is committed to something else. I don't think that's good. What you've done, Victoria, is absolutely right. You've negotiated a price based on good faith. Then you've got additional money, additional information, and then you've been upfront with them and say, look, this is my report. This is what my lender is saying. That's absolutely, I think, acceptable. If you've done it just before, the agent, putting my agency hat on as an estate agent, we remember these things. Estate agents remember those things because they could be losing sale. It's not commission. They could be losing that sale. And all sorts of stuff. And if we're building long-term relationships with estate agents, it's being true to your word, isn't it? Any comments on that from yourself or anybody? Great discussion point. Yeah, people are trying to predict the market often and say, I'm going to wait till next year. I'm going to wait a little while when the interest rates go up, go down. I'm going to, be in the right position. I have family members who have spoken to me, previously and said, I'll wait till the market's right. When is it going to drop? It never happens. It's never dropped. It continues to go up and up. And so it's getting into the market, making sure the property's right, making sure you know your areas and, making sure the finance is right and all of those, and then moving forward, getting the investment. I think there have been times when I've made mistakes in property, but property is one of those businesses which is very forgiving long term, because once you're in the business, once you're in and you bought the property, then the market correction, I'm not saying go in with that strategy, but if you do make a mistake, the market will correct itself by going up and your mistakes will be eradicated. So just be brave and not worry about trying to predict what's going to happen. On the longer term, as long as you're investing for the longer term, it will continue to rise. And this is a mindset, certainly for me, it's always be looking for opportunities. So what opportunities are there? Some people see things and they don't see the opportunity because of education or a lack of education. So people are saying, oh, there's not so many things, there's not so many deals out there. That's firstly a mindset because they're telling themselves there are not so many deals out there. But on the second token, it's can they see the opportunities? So it's developing skills to see opportunities. Nebi is here this evening. He did a presentation for us last week. And, I think if we can get hold of that presentation, you'll be able to see that he saw opportunity where maybe other people didn't see opportunity. And people have looked at the same information, and there are lots of investors, but he spotted it because of his knowledge or the skills that he's developed, etc., etc. If it doesn't matter, I don't feel that it matters if you've not got the money to purchase certain things. This is more about developing a skill, regardless if you're going to buy it or not. So it's looking at properties and saying, what could you do with that? It's sad that, or it's a shame that the law auctions are not on as much as in person that they used to be. So our local one was in Maidstone, which is like 5-6 miles from here, and every 6 to 8 weeks there was an auction there, and somebody would, people would buy properties, and you could go up to them and start. You let them do their legal paperwork because they got things on their mind. But once they've done that and they're going to have a coffee, congratulations, you won that bid, fantastic. Can I just ask you, what are you going to do with that property? And it's amazing because they're just in that excitement period where they've just got this property, they've just brought something that they've been looking for. And when they look at it, they go, you know, yeah, I brought that property, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. And you think, oh, why didn't I think of that? Why didn't I think of, oh, if I did that, that's why he's able to buy that property, because he or she knows that information, or they have a different strategy to what I had. If you want to put your hand up as a show of hands to say, yeah, that makes sense, or put a 1 in the chat to say, yeah, that absolutely makes sense. So I think I mean, certainly on Clubhouse, those of you who join us on Clubhouse, we talk on a Monday about mindset. And one of the skills and the mindset, I believe, is constantly looking for opportunities. And there are lots of people on here that are very good at it. And if you're not, then just make a conscious decision that this year I'm going to look for opportunities. It doesn't matter if you're not, as I said, that if you can afford or you can go through with it, but what you're doing is you're sharpening your tool set. You're looking at things going in a different way. And there are people that can go on Rightmove and they go, yeah, there's lots of deals out here. There's others that say there's no deals out there. It's just, it's a mindset in that respect, but it's because a person that can see the opportunities will, of course, make more money longer term. Would you agree? Yeah, because they'll see more opportunities. So, that's the end of what I wanted to share with you this evening. So we are open to discussion. Anything I've said, anything that anybody sort of like feels, no, I don't agree with that, or I do agree with that. Any questions on this or generally, I'm happy to take.
Daniel, I have a question. It's kind of very specific, but it kind of ties in with tonight. It's all about when to pay people and stuff like that. It's personal situation. So as you know, I'm a sourcer, and so my investors are, I'm starting to get into more land developers, and with these land developers, I'm coming across deals that are good deals, but sometimes the land doesn't have planning on. I'm trying to find more ones with planning, and I'm working with other sources to say find with planning. But in this situation, it didn't have planning. But the investor I showed it to is still interested. It's like, yep, I'm interested into it, but be interested subject to planning. So in this very unique situation, which I don't know will benefit others, when do you think is the right time to get paid on something like that? For as a sourcer, my contract usually says on offer accepted. But in this situation, when is an appropriate time to ask for a payment as a sourcer, or a deal that, you know, isn't a deal until planning's been achieved?
It depends on what your contract is saying. So whatever your terms of business are, and that's, in my view, is right, is thinking about it, because you want to live, you want to do certain things. So you could take a fee at a certain point. So let me just try and get back to one of the slides, which will give you a good example.
Yeah, I missed the beginning a little bit. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. I think you've seen, sorry. Yeah, you've seen this picture before, but this is a site in Newington, and it was an orchard, and there's a bungalow there, and some of you have been there. So on this particular one, it was a land agent. The land agent works for an architect. They work for a big planning organization. So the planners have theirs, but they have land agents who then find investors, just as you're doing. Okay. So he came along and he said, look, I've got this piece of land, and when you sign the option agreement, I want £12,500. And please, you know, don't quote me on the figure, but I think that's what we paid him right at the beginning, was £12,500 on that basis. Then there was another payment upon achieving planning, because the land value had gone up, and then there was another payment on completion. Yeah. So you could write that into your contract, that there are stage payments of X, and as the value increases of the land, of course, your fee then increases. But if you, for a better example, if your contract is written and they're tied in, and it could take you 3 years for them to get planning. But all of a sudden, these things are dropping in. Yeah, these things are dropping in without you. So you do the work in year 1, for example, you set the deal up, you get paid then. Then when they get planning, you haven't done anything, you have to get paid because it says that in the contract. And suddenly they sell it and another check lands in your bank. Yeah. So it's setting that up correctly. And it's saying to them, look, this site is, of course, I'm bringing it to you. So I'd want this payment. As a land investor, we've paid that to this gentleman called Mark. We paid him because we wanted the site. We knew we weren't going to get the site unless we paid him. When we got the planning, again, it was in the contract. And now we're about to sell the site. We know that we're going to have to pay him again.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, so it's an interesting way to do it, to be honest. Yeah, I didn't think about having it done that way. But yeah, no, I like it. Yeah.
Because also there's, if you say, let's just take this 3 stages there. Let's say you said to somebody, look, give me £30,000 at the beginning. They're going to go, whoa, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of risk. But if you said, look, let me be fair with you. Let me split it. Do you think it's fair that you give me £10,000 now on the signing of the option agreement? Yeah, we'll put that in the option agreement. When you get planning, the site will, of course, increase value. So that's good. Yeah. And when you sell it to the right person, do you think that's good? And because I'm a deal sourcer, I may be able to sort of pass it on to somebody. Now that I know the site, I know you, but I may be looking, you know, I have a list of investors who will buy the site with the planning. So you're win-win-win.
Yeah, no, love that strategy and mindset. Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate that. That's helped me out.
Any others that we can check out? Because it'll be really good, because that, again, that question I would never have thought of myself, I'll be honest with you. But because you brought it up, it's made me think, and I thought, oh yeah, we've done this, and this is how we did it. So it's not, that is a real life situation in the last couple of years. It's not something that's in a textbook that I've read or seen on TikTok or whatever, made up. But yeah, it's actually something we've done, and I'm happy to share if I can find the contract with you to say, look, that's what the contract we signed. I'm just looking through the chat, so if I miss anything, then please feel free to unmute and ask.
Hi, sorry, Sunil. I just typed a question in the chat. I wonder whether you can have a look. It's not related to the presentation today, but it's about an electrician recommended rewire the whole house in 5 years' time, and when the property is empty. But I currently have a local family in the property. They are quite happy to stay. So if they are still there in 5 years' time, I was wondering, what do I do with the new EICR report and the rewire the house?
So sorry, you had an EICR on an old house recently, and the electrician recommended rewiring the whole house within 5 years' time. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm happy to do that, but he wants the house to be empty when he does the rewire. So my question is, because I have a family in the tenanted in the property, if they are still there in 5 years' time, I don't have the empty period, what do I do with the rewiring?
So I'll just again give you an example, Mary, that an EICR, when they came in to force, I think it was 18 months, 2 years ago, like I said at the beginning, we have a portfolio, so then I had to appoint electricians to go. You've been to our office, and the William Street, which is just on the side of our office, first electrician went out there and he said, it's £18,000, you need the whole place rewired, you need to do this, etc., etc. So we thought we'd get a second quote, and I think we spent £1,000 to get the electrics and the EICR done. The first one, £18,000, I didn't understand him, because he knows just by looking at our setup here that we have more than one property, that he would have worked out that there's a lot more business to be had. So if he'd taken care of us, we would have continued to work with him, but we decided not to work with him. But I think your question is what about the local tenant, about a tenant moving out. Get a second quote. I think that's my opinion, a second or a third quote. And again, I can help you with those, because we have electricians that will go in with a team and they will do it very quickly, where it's not a one-man band, and they'll be able to turn that property around much quickly. If the property for some reason has to be vacated, then if they did it in a day or 2 days over a weekend, then you could offer to them and say, do you have friends or family, etc., or you may put them up in a hotel for 2 nights. But it's having the right person for the actual part, so it's not going to, so it doesn't take weeks and weeks and weeks. I hope I understood your question. I hope that answered it correctly.
Oh yeah, thank you. I think my electrician, his main concern is that furniture there. So he wants the tenants and the furniture out in the 5 years time and do the rewire. So but like you said, I think I'll probably find a different electrician in 5 years time to the new report. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
The other thing is, Mary, let's say that the tenant does move out in the next 5 years, like in 2 years time, then I think it's good to tell you now, because then you could have it in the back of your mind that, he's done what he needs to do, he's passed, but he's probably saying when it comes empty, and if it's that within the next 5 year period, then, to be aware of it so that you could plan it when the tenant moves out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that's good. But if you need any electricians, or if it's local, then again, yeah, I'm happy to give you those numbers.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's in Sheerness, so you actually find the tenants for us. So yeah, in 5 years time, we'll come back to you.
Yeah, we have
for the electrics. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and I can just give you the numbers. You can contact them and see if that's okay.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Mary. Kane, Kane, is that your question in the chat? Once the investor has been indicated they would like to proceed with the deal. It has changed now. Can it be cleared? Kane, was that your second question?
Sorry, no. Where you're at? I think I wrote a couple of things in the chat. I said thank you referred to sourcing. I think I said about my contract. Someone said, "What is your contract? Have you built staged payments?" And I replied to saying that, well, I had a previous old contract and I made this bit clearer in my new one, but the one that they signed just says, once the investor has indicated they'd like to proceed with the deal, but now the new one, it's cleared it up a little bit. I don't know if I asked a question. Well, sorry, what did you read?
Exactly that, about I think it was about staged payments to contract.
Someone asked me that, and I kind of just said, well, my previous contract just said when the investor would like to proceed with the deal, which again, it sounds unclear. I spoke with someone who was in legal, and they were like, no, it needs an event needs to happen, or a time needs to happen. So now it's been changed to if a price has been agreed, then, or otherwise, if the deal has yet to be negotiated, say it's on with an agent, then I'll do the negotiation, and then once offer's been accepted, then. But yeah, it's kind of weird with this land one, because it's kind of, I guess I could still say that, right, well, you've accepted an offer on the land. Yes, it's subject to being planning approved, but ultimately I've still done my work. I've still sourced it. I also co-source this with someone, so they also need to get paid. So yeah,
I think it's about milestones, isn't it? If it's said to milestones, it could be that as I said, on the signing of the option agreement, on the application, on the person making the application, etc., etc. If there's milestones put in of what you agree and they agree it, then that's brilliant. So
no, that's definitely going to help. If that question comes up, if he's not willing to just straight up pay, obviously for that, then yeah, I'm definitely going to recommend the staged payments, because yeah, I think that's a fair compromise.
So
and thank
Mary,
you.
Thank you. Okay. Mary, you also asked another question about Victorian house could cost more in utilities, asking yourself what, where, why, where, and linking that to your business plan should steer you. Are you doing serviced accommodation, or is it HMOs, or are you thinking of the tenant in respect of?
So I'm just my question is, what's your view on old Victorian houses, just for normal buy-to-let? Because most of my properties are the modern ones. They only have one Victorian. I'm just thinking, if I buy more in the future, should I avoid old Victorian houses? Are they very expensive for repairs and maintenance?
I think
I'm not worried about the utilities, because the tenants pay for their own utilities.
We have a number of Victorian houses, quite a few, because they're built solid. The size of rooms are good. The opportunities with them are great. So I don't think the utilities are more, because yeah, you may have to do insulation in the loft a little bit more, but you know, in terms of but they are built, in my view, very solid, and they rent well because they're good looking, and you know, sort of, again, it's room size, as I said, big garden. So I wouldn't be put off by that. And there you've got a lot of modern properties, but then if you had some others, it wouldn't matter. Utilities, as long as you're hitting EPCs, and that's the key, isn't it? That because people are now looking at EPCs, mortgage companies are looking at EPCs, tenants are looking at EPCs more often than not to say, what is the actual EPC? Am I going to be able to afford this as rents continue to go up? So I think the EPC is the key, rather than the type of property. And again, if anybody's got any views on that, happy for you to share.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'd echo that, actually. To be honest, I've got some properties, but they're mainly they're not Victorian bar one. But I'd echo that, so absolutely, yeah. In terms of the look, in terms of the sizes inside, yeah. Generally speaking, as long as you do a good, well, I say good, certainly a survey beforehand. And obviously, if you know a little bit about it, just do a visual check round beforehand in terms of the insides, particularly because they're obviously a bit older, and sometimes the ground they're on can, there's some things to check on that. But that side, yeah, I'd agree. Yeah, good sizes, good look, good options with it going forward if you wanted to do other things with it too, particularly on that. So yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you, Michael. I hope you're well as well.
Yeah, well, thanks indeed. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah. And just actually, Mary, just on your point about electricians, yeah, it's again, Sunil, but echo that as well in terms of sometimes getting another electrician to have a look at it as well, because they may have a different perspective slightly, which could be more helpful to you. I give an example that when the latest regs were introduced, I had some properties where it needed an updated check of the electrics, and some were saying it needed new consumer unit. But I knew that wasn't necessarily the case. And sometimes there could be some of that different understanding, shall we say, between electricians. So yeah, worth getting the check. But good to know though as well, echoing again what you said, Sunil, about in 5 years' time, if that's something to look to bear in mind, then obviously you can plan that should the tenants vacate in 5 years or even sooner. Yeah,
good. Yeah, thank you.
No worries.
Brilliant. Thank you for coming in there, Michael. Appreciate it. Thanks, Mary, for the question as well. Tim, Tim, if you're still here, you made some comments in the chat box. Good point, but I may be leveraging on the knowledge that the property had been on the market for a long time, awareness that the seller is desperate. Could you expand on your question or your comment? Are you possible to do that, Tim? He's actually asking again, where does BMP come, as I tend to get lots of them around? Not sure what. Yeah, if you're here, if you could unmute, that'd be great, or put something.
Yeah. I still know. My name is Tim. Yeah. Thanks for having me here. This is my first time I've been here, and then I've benefited loads and loads of stuff. Thank you very much. I was just talking about sourcing, not particularly to be a sourcer, sourcing for investors particularly. And then I'm looking into Rightmove to source for these properties, and then negotiating to below market value. or getting this below market value elsewhere in other platforms? Where are they getting the below market values from, the sources? So that's the 2 points that I'm just trying to understand at the minute.
Okay, so Tim, are you asking where are deal sources getting below market deals?
That's correct.
Okay, if you're a deal sourcer, if you want to open, Tim.
Hey, Tim. Yeah, I find deals all the time, lots of below market value deals. There's a bit of an art to it. You've got to kind of know how to work out comparables for different properties, and it just takes a lot of time, really. You can use other platforms. There's one called Deal Sourcer. There's one I use, which is really good. And in fact, if you want, send me a message. I'll send you a link for it, called Property Market Intel. It's fantastic. It helps you find good opportunities. Using all the main like market places for finding deals, like On the Market, Rightmove. But ultimately, it's going to be down to you to do some manual comparable checks on every property you see kind of a vision for. So it just takes a lot of time. You want to look for properties that are, in really bad condition, because when you get deeper into comparables, you also need to know what the current market value of the property is. So if you've got a property that is in very good condition, then the comparables you need to find for that property is like for like comparables that are also in that condition. And then if you find, a disaster property, which is what I look for flips, BRRs, and development deals. But if you find an awful condition, then that's probably going to be sold for less. But that doesn't mean it's being sold less than market value because of the condition it is. In the condition that it currently is, it might very well be that market value, because you can find comparables in the space that are also the similar condition that have sold for just as much. So it takes a long time. You just got to keep going through as many deals as possible, get really good at working out comparables. And the way you do that is you go on to sold prices in a particular area, you find the property that you're looking at, and then you've got to find similar properties that are sold recently within that area that is of the same condition as the property you're looking at. And you've got to get, ideally maybe at least 5 similar comparables, and then you can justify whether it's below market value or not.
Great, thanks, Kane. In summary, these properties are out there in the market in those platforms, right? Like Rightmove, Zoopla, and the rest of them, right?
Yep. And of course, that's just if you're sourcing on the market stuff. Other ways you find, and ultimately you want to know what the general market value of an area is, because ultimately when you do that, then you know what the market value is. But so if you're going, for example, I try to find any private sellers selling houses and negotiate with them, off market. And as long as you can work out how to do comparables within an area, you'll work out what the market rate is, and then you can negotiate like below market value based from that.
That's awesome. Thank you very much.
No problem.
So Tim, sorry, if there's any, Daniel, I know you source property, so if you want to come in, please feel free to do so. If anybody else wants to come in, any source deals, and you want to, give your view, then that's great. So Tim, the other thing is having your own campaign of finding below market deals. So you'd be monitoring, like Kane was saying, monitoring on Rightmove, on Zoopla, getting to know your local area. How do you know that a property is below market? Because the only way to do it is knowing where the benchmark is of the normal value in a street. So that then you can say, yeah, that is below market, and that's not just an inflated or a market situation. So we have one at the moment where the vendor is selling a property. He believes that the property is worth 500,000. So he's asked her to put it on the market at 525. The actual property we valued at 425. So he's actually saying he believes that his property is £100,000 more than we had done our research, done everything to make sure that what justified our figure. But because he wanted to put it on at that price, he said, okay, look, let me go with you. 2-3 weeks, we'll put it on at that price. So somebody comes along and they say to him, I'm going to knock that down by 50,000. 10%, is that a below market deal? Not really, because the real market value is around 425. So it's knowing, first of all, what the real market value is, and secondly, it's making, is looking out for those, and so that you would know what that value is. And so having letters, having cards, having a landing platform, all of those things, if you wanted to get set up in terms of looking for below market deals. There are some experts here who do looking for properties as deal sources all the time. It's worth paying them because of the time and element and the deals they come across. Worth paying them to do all that research, and then they will give you the correct information. But again, it's doing your due diligence on the property to make sure it works for you every time. So
this is the case of also knowing what's possible with the property. You could happily pay on market the actual value for the property. Like if it's a block of flats, for instance, for example, Nebby, what he's just done, you can work out, well, the price of these individual flats, if I was to do a title split, it's going to be worth X more. So you can actually, pay the market price sometimes, and actually still make your margin on that end. Of course, there are other people which are converting houses to HMOs and then carrying out the works, and then they're refinancing at a higher value, putting all their money out again. So yeah, there's obviously ways that you can search the market and off market for deals, if it was just a buy to let. But of course, there are development opportunities and stuff like that you can that you can add value to too. So I think I think if you were to have the knowledge of what's possible, like what Sunil has said earlier, then it's leveraging that, and then you can look at properties with different set of eyes others can. So where other people may see, okay, this property is on the market for this, somebody's bought it for that, and they're an investor, how on earth they're making money? Like Sunil said earlier, when he went to an auction, there could be cases like that. And once you get to speaking with them, there could be an angle that you're not aware of. And then in future, moving forward, you can look at things differently. So I think there's an angle of that also.
Yeah, brilliant. Daniel, I had difficulty hearing you in the beginning. So I was going to say, could you just lean forward and just repeat just a summary of what you said?
Okay, all right. Sorry about that. Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so for properties also, it doesn't always necessarily have to be below market value. There are other ways where you can add value to a property and develop it and pull your money out, like what Nebby's done with his recent title splits. You could look at a block of flats, for instance, and you could work out the individual value of the flats. They could be selling it as a block. Basically, you can then title split the property, and then you can sell them off individually, and it's the same, as Costa Coffee would. You're buying wholesale and you're selling retail. Similar sort of concept there. There was a deal I was looking at online. It was quite interesting. It was with a commercial agent. It was a group of commercial shops at the bottom in a town centre, and it had apartments at the top. This particular property was on with a commercial agent, and they were valuing on a commercial price. And I've basically worked out that should you buy that property, which would be unbroken freehold, essentially you would end up buying the property, you're doing a title split, and I think there was like 8 shops underneath the block of flats. And by the time you refinanced everything, there was a massive margin there, and potentially, depending on how you wanted to work it out, all those 8 shops at the bottom would have been completely free. So
Excellent. Thank you, Tim. Appreciate that. So Imran asked a question earlier on in the evening, so I've gone back and had a look at that. So he's saying, hello, everyone. Thank you for this platform. You're more than welcome. Thank you all for being here, because it's great for me. And as I said to Kane earlier, So I get a lot of value from doing this because, like, he asked the question, which made me think of what the answer is, and then oh yeah, we've done that. Let me explain that so that I do appreciate all the questions as well. So Imran is saying, my question is, I have a potential investors looking to bring in about 25,000. I want to propose a BRRR, buy refurbished, of a 1-bedroom conversion into 2-bedroom. How would you recommend we structure the shareholding? Imran has a lot of experience. He's been in property a long time. He brings in a track record. He brings in connections. He brings in a power team. All of those things that he brings is, in some respects, worth more than the money, because with his knowledge and experience, he will be able to deliver that project on budget, within time, and all of those things. If an investor comes in at 25,000, he may not be able to deliver what you're looking to do on his own. So how much is the money worth? People say, look, people who start out, including myself when I started out in terms of joint venturing, it sounds fair, I think you'll agree, oh, let's go 50-50. But that isn't the thing, because if Imran in this situation is delivering the project, he has his time investment, he has his knowledge that he's built up over years. It's simple little things like who opens the bank account, who operates the bank account, who puts in the additional money when something goes wrong, who purchased the materials, who's done the specifications. So I think in the question there, Imran, I think is structuring that the money initially you could offer, start off at a low percentage. When I'm saying low, I'm saying 8 to 10%. You may need to build up, but until you've done a number of joint ventures, you don't realize the value that you, as the developer, can bring compared to the money. So I'd invested in a project where I'd invested the money, and my co-director was going to deliver the project. The project got delayed. He went abroad, and I ended up completing the project, which took 2 years to get building sign-off. I was motivated because all my money was in the project, and he could go because he was only relying on the profit. He had nothing to lose in that respect. And we have a good amicable relationship. It's nothing untoward. All I'm saying is that the level of knowledge is probably worth a great deal. So it's putting the shareholders agreement and saying, yes, you're bringing money, but you can get money with respect anyway. 25,000, it's a bank loan, it's a loan on Tesco's club card or whatever. So that has less value than the value that you're going to bring to the table, Imran. That's my opinion. So, because you've got years of experience in trading, accounting. So don't undervalue your value, because what's going to happen is that if there's a problem, the investor who's put their money in isn't going to solve that problem. It's going to be you. And that comes at a price, because it's your time and your knowledge, and it's more your time, because it could take, you'd have to get use your contacts, you may have to come up with different solutions, etc., etc. And the investor when you complete it, if it's 50-50, they could say, well, yeah, I'm sorry you've done all the work, but the contract says you owe me 50%. Michael, if you want to come in, or anybody else, I'm happy.
I was just going to, totally echo that, Sunil. I was just going to say that for those who perhaps just another example on that, but flipping it over. So those who perhaps still, those in the corporate world, but still, or imagine a scenario where you've got a problem in front of you, and actually you're scratching your head for about 10 minutes, you can't work it out. Imagine you're trying to use software like Excel, for example. So you're new to that. 10 minutes going nowhere fast. A colleague of yours, you ask them in 5 seconds, they've told you what to do, and you off away again. The value of that person with that knowledge there you couldn't almost measure it because it saved you hours and hours of scratching your head. So yeah, sometimes that the non-financial sometimes is like sometimes not so overlooked, but perhaps just people don't necessarily recognize themselves. But actually, there's absolutely a benefit there, particularly if it's built up through experience. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you. So yeah, just going back. Sorry, did anybody want to come in? I thought I heard somebody. It's okay. So just going back to the previous point about paying people on time, Helen had written at that stage about that way around works best for me, Sunil, because she's saying that when the job is done, she walks around, makes sure she pays them on the day, and then when she calls them, they always come out for her because they know they're going to get paid. So yeah, they're working for money, contractors, and I think, you know, Helen, thank you for putting that in there earlier on. So yeah, the question about Victorian properties, yes, as long as the EPC is good, look at that. And also Victorian properties, does it need more maintenance? Depends on the property. You could get damp, you could get various other things, but they're good size and solidly built, so that it does represent money for value for money. I was just checking the chat if there's any other sort of questions or comments from anybody. Then yeah, please feel free to put them in there. I think Helen, if you're still here, I think you had a situation over the weekend, didn't you, where the electrics had a problem? So Helen had a situation, if you don't mind me sharing, is that the tenant owes rent, but had a situation and she decided to accommodate the tenant in a hotel whilst the electric works were done. So I think that's a really good decision, because then the works can be done and the tenant knows that you're taking care of them. The tenant can't come back with a claim of either a disrepair or duty of care or anything like that. There's no accidents, etc.
I've got a topic. If people wouldn't mind sharing about commercial, if you wanted some ideas.
Sorry, Daniel, could you repeat that?
Yeah. If you wanted to things to discuss, I'm quite interested at the moment on knowing a little bit more about the commercial and that aspect of actually finding a vacant building and finding a tenant to put in it and then getting that uplift on completion. If anybody would like to share any experiences of anything like that they've done previously.
I think that's a brilliant topic, and maybe we can cover that next month. If anybody's got any topics that they would like to discuss or to get some tips on, etc., and if I can't do it, I'll get somebody else to come in. But can you put them in the WhatsApp group, because this is we're about to close this Zoom. So if you think of it over the next couple of days, just put it in the WhatsApp group to say, you know what, it'll be great to have some input or some training, insights into commercial property, deal sourcing, market, whatever that is. We were looking to have a couple of mortgage brokers on here one evening, and that's still to be planned with Amit and Cash and a couple of others to say, look, give us your views on the market, so that you can then fire questions at them. So there's a panel of financial people. We've also got Kevin Whelan lined up. He does lots of pension work. He's the visionary and the MD of Wealth Builders, a really great organization. A lot of time for him because of their ethics and the way they do stuff. So yeah, if you've got any questions, if you've got any topics that you want to throw out for discussion, then just put them in the WhatsApp group. We'll pick them up or WhatsApp me directly, and then we can do something on there. So we're going to be closing in a couple of minutes, unless there's any other final questions. If you want to join the WhatsApp group, by the way, the link is there. So you can just click on that and join the WhatsApp group. The WhatsApp group's free, as this Zoom is, and then we do a monthly in person in Sittingbourne. I know it's a bit out of the way for some people, but it's really good in terms of we're still meeting in person. If I can get enough topics and people are interested, we'd put more Zooms on, because it's great, because it's quite easy to do. So, any final questions?
Sunil, if you can hear me, I've got a question just to carry on with that conversation about below market value. This was Tim's question about how he should position himself. If I understood the question correctly, it was how should he position himself to potential sellers to offer him their properties. So my question, if I was to throw it back to Tim, is if hypothetically, let's say the market value of a property was £500,000, and that's what the seller can get in this market if they were willing to be patient, and there's a hint there. Why would they offer that to Tim for £480,000, for example? So my question to Tim is, think about why the vendor would sell their asset below market value.
It's a great question. Tim, are you there?
Yes, loud and clear. Thank you very much for contributing, Ibrahim. Thank you for having me, Sunil. The only reason, or part of the reasons why I think the vendor would want to sell their property below market value is if they are desperate, number one. Number two, if you find something that you can use in negotiating the price down in the property at the point of viewing. For instance, if you see a crack in the property, or you see something leaking in the property, or something not looking right, it's an avenue to say that, yeah, I've got to fix this. Or it's the short lease that you tell them that, of course, I've got to renew the lease. Those are part of the reasons why I think you can negotiate and bring the price down.
I think, like Sunil said earlier, with the example he gave about the care home, I think if you can find ways to solve people's problems, you know, that's a massive way that you can help people, and you know, it'll be a win-win for everybody.
Thank you, Daniel. Imran?
Yeah, let's throw something else out there. So Tim, for example, let's say if I was the vendor and I'm looking to sell an asset for £500,000, but Tim, you approached me and you said, you're a sourcer, you're a property professional, you have an entire black book of contacts, and you could effectively guarantee me an exchange in 7 days. But in order to guarantee me an exchange in 7 days with completion, say in 6 weeks, you would need a bit of a discount. And that discount would work out to be £25,000. If you said that to me as a vendor, I would say, look, I could go to Dexter's, I could go to Chase, I could flood it in the market with the high street agents, and I would definitely get £500,000. However, Tim's offering me effectively a guaranteed sale in 7 days for £20,000 less. As a vendor, I would find that quite appealing. Now, the question back to you would be, are you that person with the black book, with the contacts that can really exchange in 7 days and complete in 6 weeks? That's what you need to do to build your list of contacts and your brand in the sector.
That's a valid point, which is essentially just trying to ensure that you complete in a very short time, which will be appealing to vendors. Is that right?
I mean, that could be one angle, but what I'm saying is in order for someone to offer their asset, their very valuable asset below market value, there really needs to be some clear hook there for them to latch onto.
So we are going to close in a couple of minutes. I need to go, but I'd say, Imran, that is fantastic that you picked up on what Tim was asking and revisited it. again, I'll give you the estate agent example. When we go out to see vendors, our first objective is to build rapport. Second objective is to find out their motivation. Why is your property on the market? Is it like Tim and Imran are saying, because there's been a split in a relationship? Is it because that's a different situation to them saying we found our dream home together, or somebody's passed away, or we have a debt problem? So once you know what the problem is, then I think, as Daniel was indicating, and Imran, is that we are property solution people. So we get paid on value for the number of problems we serve on, and we resolve for other people, of course. So Imran was indicating quite clearly, and it wasn't just an indication, he actually said it. He's talking about speed and certainty, and he's saying, how can you convey that message to somebody about speed and certainty? What do you have, Tim? And I'm just picking on you, Tim. What do you have, Tim, that Kane doesn't have, or Michael doesn't have, or Mary doesn't have? What makes you unique and different? Because they're going to come and say to me about this. And I think if we're talking to people, just for good measure, we're not talking about the money, we're talking about their problem or their dream, or how we can take that stress away from them. Because once you've explained, yes, I understand your situation, in the past we have done this, we are able to help you by taking that situation away from you, reduce the stress, do this, and this is our price that we would put on the property. So it's explaining how you're going to remove their stress, or how you're going to link their current life to their future life. So if it's their dream home, their current situation, etc., linking those. And I think it's a really good topic to sort of discuss at another time as well, to go, how do you talk to, so how do you make yourself different? How do you make it unique? So again, my example is we have an estate agency, but it's easy for me to go out and talk to landlords and investors, because I'm saying, yes, we're an estate agent, but my first passion and my career is, I'm a landlord, I'm an investor. So I get where you're coming from. You know, the other estate agents, yes, they earn a commission, yes, they do this, but I understand your pain when the interest rate goes up. I understand your pain when a tenant doesn't actually pay their rent. So we're in the same boat together. But by the end, they're going, well, yeah, this guy does understand where I'm coming from, and the percentage is not important that we're charging compared to somebody else, because they know that it's the value for money. As you see that, yeah, there's a lot of passion. I can talk a lot, but I do need to go. I really appreciate everybody being here. I appreciate people's contribution, Imran, and I appreciate you because you picked up on what Tim was saying. I think you really helped Tim by saying, look, you know, what makes you different with the 25 grand. The question about the shareholders agreement, that was great. Kane, you came in and about the when do you get paid on deals? Again, that's a fantastic question. And Michael and Mary and Victoria, you also contributed. Daniel, you contributed in respect of the Victorian property, electrical property, or electrics in a property, and various other things. So there's lots and lots of great things. I've got a lot of value from this evening. I hope you have, and we'll put out in the WhatsApp group. Yeah, let me know what other areas you'd like to cover, and we'll just sit down and have a chat and go through them. So happy investing, and we'll catch you very soon. Take care. Thank you. Good night.
Bye, guys.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, Dan.